And here we go.
What is up, everybody? My name is Mike from the Super Wheeler Bros, and today we have got a video that I have been talking about for a long time, and I just haven't even been able to bring myself to be able to do this, just because I don't want to bash this movie, because it's Star Wars. But today I'm gonna actually finally talk about why I hate Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And there is a lot of reasons why this movie doesn't belong with the rest of the saga. And I'm going to get into very specific plot points, so if you are one of the few people who have not gone out and seen this movie already, make sure you do so before you watch this video, or you are going to have the entire thing spoiled for you, because there is a lot to unpack here, and I'm going to cover it extensively. So let's go ahead and get right into the reasons why this very well could be right up there with Attack of the Clones as the worst Star Wars movie ever made. First off, let's go ahead and take a breath, because we're going to need it. Luke. This is the worst part, the most egregious issue in this movie. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way first, so that maybe by the end of this video, I am not up in the red all video long. Oh. I would have been let down a little bit either way if Luke had died. But at least he could have gone out having had a huge part in this movie. I mean, damn, man. Could you have done even less with Luke? It so betrays everything about his character that he has marooned himself on this island. I understand what they were trying to do as far as making it a tortured and just war-weary character at this point. And it just doesn't do justice to the character that we've grown up 30 years with. It doesn't make sense. This character's been around since the 70s, and this is the treatment that he gets. Even Mark Hamill, before Disney held the lightsaber to his throat, was upset about this and didn't understand. He's since, of course, come out in support of the movie and said, I shouldn't have criticized it, and this was wrong of me to do. No, Mark, you were right. They're wrong. These last two movies should have been just as much about Luke as it has been about Rey and Kylo Ren. He should have been able to go out like a boss, instead of just dying. There was no payoff. I feel like if maybe he had been able to take out the entire fleet on his own, like just the badass that he is, maybe that would have made this an easier pill to swallow as far as Luke is concerned. I don't know. But I just feel like he was just marginalized. And we'll get into that much more when we talk about all the characters that were marginalized. There was only maybe 2 characters that came out of this unscathed. Everyone else that we were built to love in The Force Awakens was treated very shoddily. And that includes characters from the original trilogy. Again, I just feel like maybe if he had fought off Ren and that entire fleet and sacrificed himself and gone out that way, it would have had some more resonance, and it would have done a little bit more than him just projecting himself across the galaxy. Which, by the way, is super badass, don't get me wrong, but then that shouldn't have been the end of his story. And maybe it's not, maybe he'll come back as a ghost and all that, but I just feel like that's a waste of the character. You know, I selfishly want to see more of a Jedi or a Sith just mowing enemies down. That would have been awesome. The worst thing is that I was worried Luke was going to sacrifice himself, and that's exactly what he did. But when he says, I'll see you around, kid, I was like, yeah, that was awesome. Projecting himself across the galaxy and just vanishing like that. Just like, gotcha. Now all my friends are safe because you're stupid. And I was just like, yes, he is going to see him again. That's great. That's great storytelling. But nope, never mind. Not going to see him again now. I think if they were going to kill him, Just having him do one more badass thing would have been great. I mean, he literally never leaves the island. It's just a complete waste. And what all of that really essentially does is it devalues all of the accomplishments that were done in the entire trilogy. Luke, in the end, doesn't accomplish anything. It just made the victories in that original trilogy completely null and void, which just defeats the entire purpose of the saga. It makes everything just not feel as resonant as it could. In the end, how badly you treat the hero of this entire story is mind-boggling to me, and all he ended up accomplishing was the meeting of Han and Leia so that they could have Kylo, and maybe Rey. We'll see. Hopefully they do something like that, or else we're gonna get into it in a minute. It's just bullshit in the end. It truly is. Everything to do with Luke is bullshit, and the fact that they marginalized everything that happened, that basically Han gave his life for, that Luke has now given his life for, doesn't mean anything. The second biggest thing that this movie does that just drives me crazy is the character of Rey. Rey had this mystique, this mysterious quality in the first one, that we were all willing to accept the fact that she was able to defeat Kylo because he was injured and he was surprised that she was able to do these things. So it just caught him off guard. So we were willing to accept this. That is the plausibility there. And it's a stretch, but we're able to accept it just because of that sheer fact. Now, this movie, on the other hand, she's more powerful than Luke, for God's sake. It doesn't make any sense. I just personally, as I think many Star Wars fans out there, we need a reason as to why Rey is so powerful without having any training whatsoever. It's just not plausible. It doesn't make any sense. No Jedi has gone through that, and I don't want to hear anyone saying that, well, Luke did the same thing. He had very little training. Really? The entire second movie he spent on Dagobah with Yoda training. So I don't want to hear that. Rey didn't even get Luke to train her. He saw, oh, raw power, I'm frightened, blah, 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 blah. His dying wish from his master was to pass on what he learned. And while he did that and saw the mistakes in his ways because of Kylo Ren, he was a hermit on an island. He was Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he and Obi-Wan Kenobi could not be any different. Also, Obi-Wan Kenobi had a purpose. He was there watching over Luke. Not what Luke was doing. Luke was running away from the fight because... Why? Because the greatest hero in the Star Wars saga is all of a sudden become just scared and a wimp and not brave and courageous, but just a grumpy, crusty old man. It's just tenfold awful. It's tenfold awful. And I just don't understand why Rey is so powerful. She is now a Disney princess. She is infallible. She cannot be undone. It is so poorly written, and there's no mystique or no intrigue to the character now. You've completely rendered her obsolete, and it doesn't make for interesting storytelling whatsoever. Rey is different than all these other characters, and I understand we want to have a wonderful, strong female character, and Daisy Ridley does a great job with what she's given. But I feel like we can have that strong female character. You have many different ones. In this movie, we have presented quite a few strong female characters. In fact, so much so that it feels like even some of the male characters get left at the wayside. And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But we still have to prop up all of our heroes and not marginalize them. And that's effectively what we're doing. I mean, there is no tension left for this next film. Where are we going to go? We already know that Rey is more powerful than Kylo. She's beaten him twice. And she had to save him during the lightsaber battle, which wasn't a lightsaber battle, by the way. That's another thing. Why was there no lightsaber battle? It's the first film in the series where there was no lightsaber duel whatsoever. I don't even care how small the one was in the first one. At least there was a lightsaber duel. It's the only one where there wasn't. Why? Why is the fan service gone? It's like Rian Johnson literally just took everything that J.J. Abrams set up and was like, nope, fuck you doing it my way. Sorry, I am smarter than everyone else. I'm going to create a Star Wars movie that's going to get people talking. Well, at least you accomplished one thing you set out to do. People are definitely talking, but it's not in a positive way. And no matter how many times you come out to try to defend it, it's not going to change our minds. You didn't take chances. You think you did. You didn't. And I'll explain that a little bit later on how you could have taken a chance and maybe made this whole story much more interesting. Because a lot of things you did was leave unanswered questions. It's completely inconsistent, and it does marginalize all of our characters. Why in God's name did a new character like Holdo end up being able to sacrifice herself, and it be okay for her to sacrifice herself by ramming her ship into the First Order in order to save her friends by jumping to light speed? Why was that okay? But yet, when Finn tries to do the same thing, which would have maybe made the awful story that we gave him throughout this movie a little bit more resonant and a little bit more worth everything that he'd gone through, the growth that he had seen, because he has been given the same exact story as he was in The Force Awakens, essentially here, beat by beat. I just don't understand why that was okay. And the same thing happens during that entire meandering middle section of the movie. This entire section of the film is pointless. The middle portion with Rose and Finn and Poe. And we waste a large portion of the film doing nothing to advance the plot. It's just there to give them something to do. And to eventually, the payoff there is Finn quickly dispatches Phasma. That's all that ended up doing. Maybe you introduced Benicio del Toro's character to do something in the next film, but essentially, that's all it did. Yes, there is a little bit of social commentary attempted there, but ultimately it's brushed aside so quickly that nothing ever comes of it. It doesn't inspire feeling one way or the other. And every time it cuts back to this section of film with Rose and Finn and Poe, it just grinds the film to a complete halt. There's absolutely no reason for this movie to be the longest film in the Star Wars saga. The least amount happens in this film than in any other movie in the saga, so there is absolutely no excuse for it to be the longest. The plot just meanders, and it doesn't make any sense to have just all these different scenes. Taking all of that and speeding it all up would essentially help make everything a little bit better. Which brings me to the next section of film, which is all coupled with this. Why did it take so long for the First Order to catch up and kill the Rebel fleet? This entire meandering middle section of this film, it does nothing but prolong the completely unbelievable length of the First Order in pursuit of our heroes. It's simply not plausible, and speeding up this entire section of the film would not have only made this entire portion more believable, but it also could have made the Finn portion of the film mean something. Just by speeding everything up. Increasing the pace of this movie, it would have been less boring and just something could have happened. There's so much in this movie to where nothing happens. You have the opening and you have the ending, and that's about it. It just does nothing to advance the plot of this series. Like, there was all these questions opened up, and nothing really happens. Why all these questions were presented in The Force Awakens, and we literally brushed them aside and just stopped all the mystery as far as that goes, right off the bat. Like, who the hell is Snoke? Well, he's dead. No one cares. Can't do it. Who's Rey? Nah, her parents are no one. Doesn't matter. She's just powerful for shits and giggles. Because that's just how we're going to do it, because I'm Rian Johnson, and I'm more brilliant than you. I am more clever. I know how to do things better. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's infuriating for just fans of film. This is a well-made, competently made visual film, but the storytelling is a damn mess. It truly is. I mean, you know, Luke comes back. Well, yay! Except he does nothing. He does nothing. Well, at least he gets one movie to be a badass in, right? Nope. Can't even do that. Can't even give us that. Han Solo got a great send-off. It meant something. What did Luke's mean? Nothing. I think the less said about Leia Mary Poppins, the better. But this was just stupid. Yeah, I guess it's nice to present the fact that Leia has some force powers and holy shit, she's more powerful than we thought. But in the end, it's just stupid. We've never seen anyone survive in space. I guess I could have gotten over that, but it's just another dumb thing in a million in this movie, which just continues to make no sense. So, sorry, that's another thing that just drives me crazy, that she Supermaned herself into this ship after it's been exploded. Why not give her that moment to maybe make things a little bit more heartfelt, and losing her and giving her a noble end and all that stuff. It blows my mind. The only thing she came back to do was explain to Finn how we didn't tell you because you're not important enough to know, because you're a hothead. I mean, they all say they like him at the end, I guess, but, you know, again, Poe was left to do nothing but be stupid in their eyes. So it's just all, it all does nothing for the characters that we developed relationships with in the last film. It blows my mind. You know, everybody was worried about porgs in this movie and how annoying they might be. Nah, they were fine. It's everything else that's really, really bad. Who would have thought that in a movie where we were going to have another annoying little character, that they were the least cringe thing in this movie? It just... It's so stupid. I think what this really does is it took no risks. And I know that that's really hard coming from somebody who loves The Force Awakens, which was about the safest way you could do things, minus the killing of Han Solo. But in the end, this doesn't do anything interesting for our characters at all. Rey is just left so lifeless by this. And Kylo is the only interesting character we have because you can't pin him down. There is conflict and actual character building. We see so much more in his idea that we have to burn all this old stuff down. Just burn it to the ground and create something new. That is intriguing. What would have been even more intriguing is if we have Rey take his hand. And now... we have to take out both of them. And that is where you could have had Luke have to stop the two of them together, because he is the hero of the story. Instead, we have just done the simple thing and make Rey the hero of the story, which of course we have no reason for right now, because she's nobody. She's just whoever. And that's where the ending of the movie comes into play, where, you know, anybody could be a Jedi. Give me that broom, the kid says, and it comes here. This is about the Skywalkers, and they have to make Rey a Skywalker somehow. Otherwise, this entire story just doesn't make sense, and it feels cheap, and it doesn't feel right. This has been the Skywalker saga. Why are we making it not the Skywalker saga? That's what this is essentially doing. It's essentially back to good old good versus evil. Just a standard Disney movie now. It's just, it makes me sad in the end. I'm not even angry as much anymore, 2 months removed from this film opening in theaters in December, but in the end, it just makes me sad, and it really does just present a whole host of questions now that J.J. Abrams is going to have to try and fix, and good luck. That's all I can tell you. Guys, I'm sorry that this turned into the roast of Star Wars The Last Jedi. I hope that some of these points, that they really just resonate with you guys and that you can relate. And if you don't relate, that's fine. Leave your comments below. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. This is definitely a polarizing movie. You kind of either loved it or hate it. I've had a lot of discussions with people who love it and they try to justify it to me. And while their points are valid in many ways, to me, you just did nothing for this series of film, and in the end, it is infuriating, because it's not bad in a sense where the dialogue is just awful and you use too much CGI. No, that was not it whatsoever. There was a lot of cool things in this movie. There was a lot of great visual, just orgasmic things happening in this movie. The sets were great. The effects were just fantastic. But in the end, we decided that we were going to go and just tell the most boring story possible and not give these characters that deserve much more respect a fitting end, at least. You could have done so much more. Why wait 30 plus years to bring Mark Hamill back into the fold to be Luke Skywalker, to just treat him this way and end him this way? I'd have rather him not been in the film at all, to be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, guys, tell me what you thought of Star Wars The Last Jedi in the comments below. I will not attach a score to this. This is not really a review as much as a explaining why I never wrote a review and never filmed a review, and just why I have been dreading even talking about this movie, because it does anger me. So hopefully I can cut this video down to where it's not long. I feel like I've been ranting for quite some time. But anyway, again, tell me what you guys thought of Star Wars The Last Jedi in the comments below. This is definitely a movie that will be talked about for many, many, many years. I mean, of course, it's a Star Wars movie, and it's very divisive. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this. You are the absolute best. My name is Mike from the Super Wheeler Bros, and as always, my friends, have yourselves a super week.